Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll show you how I painted my Space Marine in the Raptors colour scheme. Here are the models I'll be painting in this video, but I'll use the Sergeant as an example. And I'm going with the Raptor colour scheme, and I built these for Kill Team, but I'll also be playing them in 40k with my Imperial Fists. All the paints I use in the video I'll put in the description down below, and I'll also put a link to Firestorm Games. They're a sponsor of my channel. It'd be great if you could check them out. You can save up to 20% on all your paints and hobby products, and there's even a code down there that they've given me to share with you, so you can save an additional 5% on top of those already great discounts. So all the details are in the description. It'd be great if you could check them out and save some money. Right, let's get started. So I've primed these with the Army Green Army Painter brand, and this is because I had a can at home. I prefer to prime with an airbrush, but this is what I had, and I'm happy with the results. It came out great. Great base to use for the Raptors, I think, so this is going to be a good place to start, but you can use any primer you think is suitable. Then I took some dry Nurgling Green by Citadel Colour, my very vegan makeup brush that I use a lot here on the channel, and I'm going to do some dry brushing with this. So I'm going to get some on the bristles, work that into some kitchen towel, get most of the paint off the brush, and then I'm going to start just going over the whole model, just trying to use strokes going from the top down to the bottom, just to break up that colour a little bit, add a little bit of a lighter colour to the model overall, and this will just be the first step in the painting process that we'll put layers on as we work through. And here you can see it's quite a subtle difference, but I think it is something worth doing, but you could leave it out. It's an optional stage. Right, now we're on to the next step, and I took some base Death World Forest and some technical contrast medium, and I mixed equal quantities of each, 1:1 ratio. Now you could use any medium for this, you don't have to use the contrast, but it is what I had, so that's what I used. And now I'm going to go over the whole model with this. I'm going to coat all the panels, every part of it, with a nice even coat, and I'm just going to do this once. Just one coat is all we need, and then I'm going to let that dry completely before moving on to the next stage. And that'll be the case in between every step we do. We let all those paints dry before moving on to the next one. I like to batch paint, so I'm doing all my 6 models for my kill team at the same time, so that's a really good time saver. Now it's on to some shade, some Athonian Camo shade, and I've switched brushes. Now I'm using the Army Painter Wargamer Kalinsky Masterclass. Very nice brush this, super thin bristles, so this is going to be great for doing the detailing work. And so I'm going to run a line of this shade through all the recesses, all the different lines in the armour, really taking my time moving the model so I'm not having to move myself, and then just really taking my time doing all this pin wash all over the model. You could use Agrax Earth Shade for this, or Nuln Oil, and I would have used one of those if I didn't have this shade already, and so it doesn't really matter, as long as you've got like a brown or a blacky colour. This is nice because it's got some green in there as well. I think it's all going to work just as well and give a very similar result, but most of the time I'm using what I've got already at home. Now I didn't shake this enough, and I even used a paint shaker, and it's dried with this glossy effect. It's not a gloss shade, but it has come out like this, and no matter how much I shook it, it dried like this. You can see on all the models. So I've got an easy fix for you. Take some contrast medium. I've got the technical contrast medium, but you could use Lamia medium, even Winsor & Newton artist medium, which is a lot cheaper, and just give one coat all over the model, and this is going to, when it's dry, it's going to get rid of that shiny effect. So here it is completely coated, and you'll see now once that's dried we've got rid of the problem. So a nice quick and easy fix. Don't panic if it happens, you can get it back to as it should look with just giving it one coat of that medium. Next I took some layer Ogryn Camo, and so again I had this paint. I thought it would work nicely. I've been using it on my Catachans, so I thought I'd try it on this, and now I'm going to do some edge highlighting, and this is something I really need to practice. I'm quite new to painting like this. Historically I've been painting in contrast paints for the last couple of years, but now I'm starting to move in to the more traditional methods, and so yeah, I'm trying hard to get these lines nice and neat, but it really doesn't matter if they're not perfect. When you look at them at the end, you'll see from a distance it doesn't matter, but I was happy with this result. It's certainly improving from when I first started painting, but practice definitely makes perfect. I've got a long way to go yet. Right, now I took some technical Martian Iron Earth and Martian Iron Crust, and I'm going to put this on the base. And I did this because I wanted to get these done ready for my game club, so I thought I'll do this as the last step one evening, and then that'll dry overnight, and I can finish painting in the morning. So I did these over like a kind of afternoon, evening, and then a couple of hours the next day, and so to get 6 of these ready, it's pretty quick using these methods. You'll get 2 different effects from these paints. One will be like a crust and one will be more of a crackle effect, and that's really going to be nice to do the combo, but you don't have to. You could just use one or the other, no problem. And here you can see it's on quite thick. I cleaned around the rim before I let that dry overnight, and then in the morning I came back and look at this, it looks awesome, crackles up nicely. The more you put on, the bigger the cracks. Next up is base Celestra Grey, and then this is going to go over the crest on the chest, and so I've watered these down now. I use like quite a lot of water and do a couple of layers usually. Sometimes you only need 1 layer, and in this case I only put 1 because I want some of that green to almost come through it a bit. So there we go, that's 1 coat all done. Then I took some Abaddon black, and sometimes when you're working on different parts you can do this while the other areas are drying. So while that chest is drying, I painted all the black parts of the bolt rifle here, and then just worked my way all around the model, picking out the other sections. Like you can see, you've got the fist here, the raised part from the Primaris upgrade kit, which is awesome. I still haven't put a transfer on a model. I've got to do that for my Imperial Fist and for these at some point. But just keep going with this black paint, and then all the little bits in the legs here as well. Make sure they're all coated too. Then next I moved on to yellow, Yriel yellow, and this is going to go for the stripe on the helmet. So this is my sergeant, and so rather than giving him the red helmet, I saw a few pictures for Raptors where they have this yellow stripe. I thought that's awesome because that's going to be a little tie-in to the Imperial Fists as well. So I liked how that worked out, and I'm just taking my time. This took about 3 coats because I've watered it down quite a bit to give me more control and more flow with that paint. And here I'm just really taking my time to like paint in the stripes and then just building those layers up. So that's a really big help for these detailed work. Wet the paint down and then do it in layers, taking your time each step. Next I took some Shade Nuln Oil, and then I put this over the crest, and then that's going to bring out more details from the model. Shades are brilliant for that. They really do bring out all the details, so you've got to let the model do most of the work for you really, so just building up the different steps. Next is Mephiston Red base paint, and this is just going to be for the purity seal, just a little bit. And looking at the model, you wouldn't think there was many paints involved. When you do all these little details, you do end up using quite a lot of paints. Next I took some base Leadbelcher, and I used this for every metal part on the model. So I'm just going through, again, picking out the parts on that weapon. So that's going to be the magazine, bits of the stock, the scope. Then we move round to the back, and I'm just going to get this little relic here that he's carrying. So all these from the Primaris upgrade kits. Get the booster pack done as well, so that's all going to get a nice coat. And so all the metals will be using the same colour, and this makes it a lot easier later on as I put contrasts over and things like that. Just going around the edges here carefully. And then once that's dried, it's Nuln Oil again, and this will go all over the bolt rifle, and then we're going to pick out all those different metal parts that we painted and give those a coat too. So we'll spin it round and we'll just work through the relics and the backpack as well. Now I'm using Agrax Earth Shade, so this is more of a brown colour, while Nuln Oil is more black, and I'm going to give a solid coat all over the base. So I want to tone that red down a little bit, make it a bit more earthy, a bit more brown, and so this will do the trick. Then it's layer Dawnstone while that's drying, and now I'm going to pick out some highlights on the black of the rifle. So I'm just doing lines again, taking my time, and again watering that paint down a fair bit really helps with this. You can do a few layers if you want to, but I found just 1 layer is enough. I took my time here just picking out the raised areas of the fist, and then just went around doing some little thin lines around the lower half. Then I took some layer White Scar, and I just used this to highlight the crest. Now this might be a bit too bold, and I didn't do a great job on this to be fair. I certainly lost a lot of the detail that I got from the shade earlier, so I think dry brushing over this might be a good way to go, and it'll be a little bit more subtler, but I think it will allow some of the details to come through a lot better. But I'm still happy with the finish, and it's no problem, but it can definitely be improved. Then it's onto the eyes, and so watering the paint down again so you get a nice flow and a bit more control, and then that's going to just go in the eye sockets. And when it's fully dried, I take some contrast Talassar blue, one of my favourite paints at the moment, and then going to put a little bit of that in there too. You could mix this with medium if you wanted to, but I didn't. Then some blood for the blood god, and just a tiny dot of this is going to go on the sensor on the top there, so just one little dot. And then we're going to take some layer Stormhost silver. We're going to do the dry brushing effect with a smaller brush this time. And I'm just going to go over all the metalwork. And I also don't mind if a little bit goes over the black of the weapon here. I think that's going to add to the metallic look of it overall. But mostly we're looking at the metalwork. Then it's Bugmans Glow base. Dry brushing now with a bigger brush all around the base. First I'm doing the feet and the bottom of the legs, just so some of that dust is coming off the base and give that effect. And then I go a little bit rougher and heavier on the rest of the base. Then I took some Werewolf fur by Army Painter, and only because I had this colour and it suits it, so you don't have to keep buying stuff. If you've got something that will work already from a different brand, then go with that. Mix the brands up, it's no problem. And I'm going to give 2 solid coats all the way around the base. And here we go, here's the Raptor fists all painted and ready for battle. So really happy how they turned out. I played them for the first time last night and they won, which is really cool in Kill Team, so I had great fun. But here's the Sergeant fully painted up, and so I think these techniques are nice and simple. A little bit of practice on the line work. I've got to improve on that big time. You can see here as we zoom in, some of those lines are really messy. But once you come away from the model, and certainly when you're playing it on the tabletop, you're a few feet away from it most of the time. So you're not going to notice just how imperfect those lines are. And as you can see here, you can't tell at all. It's just going to blend in and sell the effect of a highlight. But here's all 6, and I've got these as WYSIWYG, but also put a couple of the Eliminator weapons in there, because I think they're really cool as proxies for the Stalker rifles. And then there's the Sergeant. We've got the Gunner here, so he's got the grenade launcher. Here's the Assault Intercessor with the grenades as well, so he's the Grenadier. And then I've got the regular Intercessor Warrior, and then 2 more Warriors who I gave those Eliminator bolt sniper rifles too. I just think they look so cool with those big silencers on. So that's my kill team. Can't wait to play them a lot more, and I hope you enjoyed seeing this video, how I went through the process of painting them up, and I hope it helps. And don't forget, the list of paints will be in the description below if you want to use the same ones, but I definitely encourage you to mix up the different brands, use what you've got, and then make that work for you. But if you want to go with the same recipe, it's down below with a link to Firestorm Games. So thanks again for watching. If you did like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make these daily videos possible, and if you're interested in joining the community, it'd be awesome to see you there, and I'll put a link for that in the description down below.